Welcome back to The Beat. As promised, Soledad O'Brien still with us. The next story we want to get into is, of course, one of the biggest stories of the day. 45 Republican senators who were reduced to fleeing their own chambers during that insurrection are now on record basically saying they don't even want to have a trial for all of that. And that is against the backdrop of DHS taking this rare step of issuing, you need to know this, a domestic terrorism threat, a warning. They're citing, quote, ideologically motivated violent extremists fueled by, quote, false narratives. And they say, you need to know as an American or anyone in this country that this will persist over the coming weeks. It also comes amidst charges for a man who threatened one of the leaders of Speaker Pelosi's Democratic majority, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, and his family the day of the insurrection. The congressman spoke out on MSNBC to Chris Hayes.
What was chilling in the message that was received is that this individual said, stop telling lies. Biden did not win. He will not be president. And so he was radicalized by the big lie that Donald Trump told, and that has been supported by so many Republicans in the House and the Senate.
As a matter of counting up who's doing this, it is about the current Congress and members of the current Republican Party. Take a freshman member, Congresswoman from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who endorsed, quote, executing Democrats online before she was elected to Congress. She called the 2018 Parkland shooting a false flag operation and even joined in antagonizing one of the survivors.
Officer at Parkland had done his job, then Nicholas Cruz wouldn't have killed anybody in your high school. How did you get over 30 appointments with senators? How'd you do that? School zones were protected with security guards with guns. There would be no mass shootings. But yet you're attacking our Second Amendment. And you have nothing to say.
This approach is now in Congress, and many Republicans just want to move on.
I think it's a waste of time. And so to coin a phrase, I think it's time to move on.
I think the trial is stupid. I think it's counterproductive. We already have a flaming fire in this country, and it's like taking a bunch of gasoline and pouring it on top of the fire.
This has nothing to do with what we should be doing at the Capitol. It's vindictive. It's backward looking.
Soledad O'Brien is back with us. Your thoughts?
Yeah, none of that surprises me at all, and especially from the players who you aired, that's exactly what you would expect that they would say. At the end of the day, the GOP has to decide what is the face of the GOP, right? Is it Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and QAnon, or is it going to be Senator Romney and Lisa Murkowski and Liz Cheney, right? Like those are the sort of polar opposites that they're trying to deal with right now. And what you're seeing, I think, which I would frame as basic cowardice 101, but I think is really trying to figure out the value of Donald Trump and where he goes next, right? He's lost the White House, he's lost the Senate, he's lost the House for them. He has taken a role in this insurrection. He's been impeached 2 times, and yet they can't quite figure out how to quit him because they're afraid of his base and they need his base. And so they're waffling between what exactly do you do? I think Marco Rubio is a very good example of that. You know, this idea, we need unity, we should move on. People died, but let's move on. It makes no actual sense. It's literally nonsensical. But I think the bigger issue goes to what is the GOP going to be in the future? Who represents, who is the face of the GOP? And I think that's an indication of really a divide, a division, a chaos inside the GOP.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the former president is off Twitter, but he's on the minds of these Republicans. I just want to read from an account here by the Associated Press that says Republicans signal an unwillingness to part with Trump after the riot. They note that Trump's continued involvement in politics so soon after his departure marks a dramatic break from past presidents who typically stepped out of the spotlight. And the article, Soledad, gives very specific examples we can remind everyone of from perhaps a simpler time, whether it was former President Obama taking some R&R or former President Bush turning to painting.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Trump will not take R&R, and he will not, his R&R is Twitter, and he will not turn to painting. This is what he likes. This is what he enjoys. And so I think the real question is going to be, does he become actually involved in investigations, let's say in New York City? Will he continue to be silenced on social media? Will he instead have a shameless embrace of white supremacy and lead that way and really lead a movement and become the face of that? And I think everybody really, but I think some of these leaders in the GOP are watching very carefully to see what he does, because that's going to dictate what they do. I think they are afraid of his followers, and they are afraid of him turning those followers against him.
Yeah, I think we have. Do you want to see the painting? I think we have that. Just memory lane. How different. It wasn't that long ago. You'd leave office and you'd windsurf or you'd paint or you just sort of had the idea of it's someone else's turn.
President Bush put together a book of his paintings, actually, and I own that book of paintings. Listen, I'm happy to bet you money right now. President Trump will not at all be doing any painting for his R&R.
Yeah, it's a real contrast. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.